So our lead this hour coming from Sin City. There were like 7 or 8 stories in the NFL we could have started with, but no bigger sinners in the NFL than the Raiders. Did you see what happened there in that game? Did you watch that? No, you did not watch the game. Why did you watch the game? Bad job by you. Now, in fairness, if you didn't watch the second half, neither did the Raider players or coaches. So you just like them, they sat that one out. But the Raiders blew a massive halftime lead, and the Cardinals rallied back. They get a 29-23 win in overtime in Las Vegas, Nevada. And right now, the sound you hear is a bubble bath being drawn for Kyler Murray. He gets the Manny and the Petty. Yeah! Whee! The little guy! Way to go, Kyler! Way to go! He threw a touchdown. He ran for a score and just happened to be in the right place at the right time as the Raiders dropped a deuce right at midfield, and Arizona ends up picking up their first win of the season. They're 1-1 after 2. The Raiders drop to 0-2. 0-2 for the team that had such great optimism, people running to bet on the Raiders to win the AFC in Vegas and other locales that have legalized gambling. So let us discuss the question. Who gets the blame? We're going to play the blame game. We got to play the blame game. Blame game for the Raiders blowing a 20-0 lead at halftime. Holy cannoli. 20-0 lead, you're at home. You're at home, you blow a 20-0 lead. So my thoughts, I've got Sandwich Board, Wreck-It Ralph, and Wizard of Oz. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make an all-you-can-eat buffet. Why not? They have a lot of those in Vegas. They're not cheap, but they have them. All right, so A, we'll start with this. Derek Carr, he gets to wear the big piece of the blame pie. He gets the big piece of the pie here. Didn't the Raiders just give him some new funny money to play with in the offseason? Didn't they double down on Derek Carr? So if you double down on Derek Carr and you have a 20-0 lead at home against an average opponent, shouldn't you win that game? Am I being too mean? Am I being a mean talk show host? I don't think so. I don't think I am. Listen, I got no skin in the game. I am surrounded by Raider fans. Everywhere I go, I see Raider fans. I go out and meet fans of the show. It's all Raider fans. Everyone loves the Raiders. And why? With performances like this. I don't understand. It's the same old song and dance for Carr. He is a jalopy. Inside, he's a jalopy. Outside, Derek Carr looks like a high-end sports car. Inside, jalopy. Jalopy. All right, the engine's dying. The engine it won't go up the mountain. It will not go up the mountain. That's Derek Carr. If you've ever been to Vegas, there's a hotel called the Mirage, and that would be Carr as well. Shows flashes of success, just enough to tease you. Yeah, it's like back in your dating days, you go out, there's the beautiful lady across the bar there, and she kind of flashed a little bit, get you all worked up there, and yeah. I think the clinical term men experience is called blue balls. I think that is the term there. You're like, no, this is going to be the time. This is going to be the time. No. You're back home on Pornhub. That's pretty much the Carr experience, okay? And it's just an optical illusion. A performance against Arizona. This is really symbolic of Derek Carr's entire career. The first half of the game, he was zipping the ball around. He had 210 yards passing. He was averaging almost 9 yards per pass. Had a great game going, right? Raiders up 20-0. He's completing 75% of his passes. Things are going really well. You're like, okay, here we go. This is all that he's cracked up to be. And in the second half, he completes less than 50% of his passes. Now, I had to do a double take on this because I thought, well, I knew he was bad, but I didn't realize he was bad. He averaged less than 3 yards per pass attempt. 2.8 yards per attempt after halftime. 2.8 yards per pass attempt, which I think is hard to do. His passer rating in the second half and overtime, 53.4. So as a result, he gets sentenced to wear the sandwich board. And so Carr gets to spend numerous hours now on Las Vegas Boulevard. They're standing next to Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and Buzz Lightyear. And on that sign, it'll explain he was terrible in the second half, and he cost the Raiders a victory. One play! You need one play from your quarterback. One play! Now, I may or may not have had a financial investment in the Raiders, so I might be a little sensitive to the fact that the Raiders up 20-0 seemed like a gimme. Like I was like, okay, I got that. That's one I got. And it was that's why they call it handicap. There's some things you can't factor in, like the intestinal fortitude of an entire franchise, the Raiders, in the second half. All right, now part B of this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad are things for the Raiders? So being measured here and not being a reactionary talk show host, I'm at a 9.0. 9.0 for the Raiders. Josh McDaniels was brought in to what? Change the culture. He's the guy that hung out with Bill Belichick. Fix-It Felix Jr. from Wreck-It Ralph for Derek Carr. And these aren't the same old silver and black. This is not the same old Derek Carr. After all, McDaniels, he stole from the Patriots a little bit of that gold dust from Belichick. He had a little gold dust with him. He had rubbed shoulders and elbows with Tom Brady in New England. Well, we are now just, 12%, a little less than that through the NFL 17-game regular season. And spoiler alert, same old Derek Carr. Same old Derek Carr. Self-inflicted wounds with a wink and a nod to Hunter Renfrow, who tried to give the game away in overtime, failed, and then gave the game away. He fumbled, handing the game to Arizona. 2 fumbles in overtime. Now, again, I guess I'm nitpicking. But you would think if you fumbled the first time, you'd make it a point of emphasis not to fumble again the next time you get the ball. No, fumble. Fumble, 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 fumble. And so the Raiders, even by Raiders standards, this is unusual. The Raiders had played 39 games all time, leading by 20 or more points at halftime. They were 39-0. So this is the largest blown lead in franchise history. And Al Davis turning over in his grave right now. That sound you heard was the needle popping, the silver and black balloon. It's still early. It's only 2 games. There's time. Yada, 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 yada. All right, we do the show right now. We don't wait until the end of the year to do the show. We do the talk show right now, and at this moment, the Raiders are 0-2. They lost a divisional game against the Chargers, and they just handed over a game at home to a pretty mediocre Cardinal team. Nobody thinks the Cardinals are any good. And when everyone gets off their, takes their knee pads off for Kyler Murray, I believe they will realize that he wasn't all that good. A couple of good plays there, but this was more about the Raiders than anything else. And you get off to that start 0-2, and now things get even more difficult. The Raiders have a road trip to Nashville to take on Clay Travis's Tennessee Titans. That'll be next week. And then they play the Broncos at home and the Chiefs. So back-to-back divisional games going into an early bye. The Raiders, one of the teams that has the early bye, they have a good chance of getting off to a 1-4 start based on the way they have performed here. And I'm being realistic. All right, last word here. So is Davante Adams having regrets about going to Vegas? He's like, wait a minute. I don't get to play the Bears here. I don't get to play the Lions or the Vikings. What's up with that? So he's got to be inspecting his fingernails, kind of stroking his chin, doing the bad body language thing, contemplating things. It's like from The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy Gale, right? And that cartoon bubble over his head. Davante, I've got a feeling we're not in Green Bay anymore. No, you're not. But at least his bank account is doing very well. He would have made a lot of money in Green Bay. He's making a lot of money in Vegas. Gets to hang out with his college buddy. They can talk about how great they were at Fresno State. But man, oh man, hit the buffet. Maybe at the buffet right now or the after-hours party in Vegas. Man, what the heck happened? 1 week after the Raiders force-fed, shoved the football to Davante Adams, 17 targets in week 1, 10 receptions, 141 yards. Great stat line touchdown. Davante Adams had 7 targets, so 10 less, using back of the napkin Maller math, and he caught just 2 of them for 12 yards. He did have a touchdown, so the Raiders go down.